Patreon.com/the Walk-Off Podcast. $4 a month gets you in there.
Arden, you're always so generous with your time. We really appreciate it here. We are going to flip to listener questions and get to as many of those as we can before we let you go. I'll let Adam do most of this. I will start with this first one here from Dr. Internet, of course, Blue Jays Twitter darling and Patreon member here on the Walk-Off. He says, "Hi, Arden. Big fan of your work on the Toronto Blue Jays baseball broadcast on Sportsnet. In addition to your podcast at the Letters with Ben Nicholson-Smith, sponsored by Miller Lite Canada. Are you ever burdened with hearing baseball trade-related rumors that you are unable to report on? If so, you are welcome to unburden yourself by sharing rumors by direct messaging Twitter account at Grecian5. Thank you, Arden, and keep up the terrific work." So,
okay, thank you.
Yes, there you go.
Into advice.
There you go. All right, you can clear your conscience there. All right, next one. First one. I don't know how we want to deal with that, but this one comes in from Bob Emke. Says, "Hello, Arden. First off, truly enjoy your knowledge in the Blue Jays organization. Question, how does Don Mattingly help out the team this year? Does he take over at some point, or do you see this being John Schneider's job for good?"
Does he take over as manager?
I guess that's the question.
I mean, John Schneider just became the manager.
All right.
No,
okay.
Yeah, Don Mattingly is the bench coach, so I mean, he's going to help out in all kinds of ways. You saw him sort of, giving Vladimir Guerrero Jr. some pointers at first base. Like that's going to be huge. Not a lot of better people to learn from about the ins and outs playing first base than Donnie Baseball. I think he's gonna have a lot to say in terms of strategy and game planning and in-game decision making, and just relying on some of his experience and some of the situations that he's managed his way throughout his MLB managerial tenure. But yeah, no, I don't think he's going to be the manager of the Toronto Blue Jays this year. I think John Schneider is going to be the manager, and I think he's a good one.
I think so too. I do think that it'd be some valuable brain picking going on between John Schneider, though, and Don Mattingly. So look forward to that. Okay, next one comes in from Michael Meyer. It says, "I would like to hear your take on how your and Ben's perspective and philosophy on baseball are different. Also wanted to congratulate you on moving up with Sportsnet." There you go, Michael Meyer.
Thanks, man. I don't know. How are our philosophies different? I don't know how to answer that. Honestly, I have no idea.
All right, that's a tough one.
Yeah, it's just not something I've ever considered. Like we both come to the podcast and talk about the Blue Jays, man. Like, yeah, I don't. I wish I had some sort of really insightful thought to give about that, but I honestly just really don't. I'm drawing blanks.
Fair enough. All right, next one comes from Randy Levy. Says, "What topic, player, or story does Arden want to cover but hasn't had a chance to yet?"
Zero. None. I mean, we talk about this team all day long. Right?
You're absolutely fulfilled.
Honestly, we talk every day throughout the season. We talk about them and we write about them. So there's really like no stone left unturned. It's, as far as I'm concerned, with the Toronto Blue Jays. Like I think we cover everything.
Oh, especially in some of those cold, dark January nights. There's you gotta sometimes uncover some pretty boring stones just to keep the ball rolling. So I get that. Okay. Next one comes in from Mal Polliter. Says, "Since Vlad has moved to first base, he's dropped a lot of weight and seems to embrace the many facets of a healthy pro athlete lifestyle. His admitted dream was always to play third base, and I'm curious if you can envision a scenario where Chapman departs and Vlad slides back over to third, where his cannon of an arm isn't entirely wasted. He may never be a defensive wizard like Chapman, but with his new level of fitness, I feel like he could be an above average third baseman."
I mean, he's a gold glover at first base, so I don't know that you're really gonna mess around with that. I think you've got him at the right position right now. People forget that he came up as an outfielder, by the way, in the Dominican Republic when he was signed internationally. He was signed as an outfielder, and then Alex Anthopoulos and Tony LaCava and those guys were asking him like, "Hey, where do you want to play? Where do you like playing?" And Vlad goes, "Yeah, I kind of like playing third base." I said, "Okay, you can play third base." So he played third base coming up through the minors, and yeah, he's got an absolute cannon. You don't get to see it as often anymore, but since he's made the move across the diamond, he seems to have like really settled in as a very sound defensive first baseman. So I would be leaving him right where he is if it were up
Don't
to
mess
me.
with what works, eh?
Yeah, I mean, there might be, the odd game where you get some crazy substitutions and, pinch hitting and stuff like that that necessitates him to have a few innings at third base. It's still an option, but yeah, I think Vlad's pretty settled at first.
That Gold Glove award, I'm sure, really puts his mind at ease with that transition from third base as well.
Yeah.
All right. Last one here comes from John Dick. In regards to the bearded dragon, this is Kikuchi, the new beard in spring training here. So in my opinion, Kikuchi is a very interesting wild card for the team. For all intents and purposes, his quote unquote stuff is very good. What sort of ceiling do you see with the bearded dragon? And do you think he's more or less likely to be an impact arm this year?
Best case scenario, he's taken regular turns in the rotation and given you two really sound trips through with a high strikeout rate and an acceptable walk rate, I think. And then, beyond that, like you'll take that if
Yeah.
you're the Blue Jays. There is always the sort of fallback alternative of him as like Andrew Miller out of the bullpen as this lefty reliever. And we saw him strike out 40% of the batters that he faced as a reliever last season. So like the stuff plays in that role, but he was still just walking too many hitters. So the biggest thing you need to keep an eye on with Yusei Kikuchi as he starts making spring starts and then into his first regular season outings is just like how often is he in the zone? Like how often is the stuff on the plate? Because that's the biggest thing for him. He's got no problem missing bats. Like he's got no problem finding velocity. He's obviously doing a lot of work right now to sort of like adjust his arm path and shorten up, try to be more direct to the catcher. He's kind of playing around with his pitches, working on a curveball, changing grips, all that stuff. Like, look, there was a lot of tinkering in the season last year too, right? There's a lot of adjustments being made too. I think the biggest thing is he trusting his stuff and is he throwing strikes? Because typically when he's attacking the zone and being aggressive with his fastball, good things happen. So I'm keeping an eye on that zone percentage with Yusei Kikuchi. I think that's the biggest thing.
Love it. Okay, that's all we got for listener questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Arden. Really appreciate you taking the time to join us, man. All the best with the upcoming season. Safe travels down to spring training at the end of the week here. And again, congrats on the new role down on the field. Very excited to see you doing interviews.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Hey, here's one last question.
Yep.
With your new role, you be traveling with the team more, home games, or you do away games too?
Yeah, I'll be doing quite a bit of travel. I guess it's probably more than the last few years. It's kind of different, right? Like it's gonna be less travel for like the .ca coverage and more travel for the broadcast. So I think it all kind of evens out.
Evens out. Yeah.
In that regard, then, do you travel with the team? I know Sportsnet, Blue Jays, it's all like an integrated conglomeration. Are you traveling separately, or are you like team playing with the Blue Jays?
Flying commercial, baby.
There you go. Just a regular Joe.
People see me in that line at Air Canada at 6:30 in the morning or whatever. I'm there.
I love it.
I'm in line at Starbucks at Pearson very often. So yeah,
All
no,
right.
we fly commercial, and it that adds a little bit of stress and decreases a little bit from the time spent sleeping. But I'll take that because the job's a lot of fun.
Love
Waiting
it. Well,
for Zone 3 to be
congratulations.
called with the rest of us schlubs, eh?
Oh yeah, exactly. I know that call well.
All right.
Again, Arden, thank you so much, man. All the best.
All right, thanks guys.